Girl, it is late. It's late, but I had my notes done and you're busy doing things and then the day slips away and then you realize there's an election in 4 days and you have these notes and you need to get them out. So, anyways, we're here with a special late night edition of Dinner with Kimberly. It's Midnight Snack with Kimberly. Hi. And also, did you catch Kamala's latest rally? Did you? I don't really watch them. I did watch, because people have asked me about my thoughts on this, the rally with the reproductive freedom rally, the reproductive justice rally in Austin last week. Was it just last week? What's going on? What's going on? That was Colin Allred and Jessica Alba was there. Amanda Karofsky was there. And of course, Beyonce and Kelly Rowland were there supporting. What were my feelings about the reproductive freedom rally? I will say again and again, what I have been most impressed by, and maybe this isn't, I don't know what this says about the Harris campaign, but I have been very impressed by how beautiful the events look, how well crafted and choreographed they are. Kamala always looks great. The design of her merch and the signs, it's very aesthetically pleasing. There are clearly people involved in the Harris campaign that know what they are doing. These people get the stagecraft, they get how images make people feel and rouse emotions. I loved that. I'm all about reproductive justice, clearly, all about reproductive freedom. I am pro Colin Allred in the state of Texas. I don't know if Colin Allred is going to be able to do it. I'm just not sure. I would be overjoyed. I would be delighted if he were able to do that. Do I care that Colin Allred has a white wife? Not real. I mean, when I first encountered him, I was like, I don't really know. But then I read through his biography. What a stunningly impressive human. Incredible story, incredible accomplishments. And then I read up on the wife because I had to say, hey, if we're dealing with a white woman, what kind of white woman are we dealing with? And the hardcore feminist Kim, the first thing I reacted to when I was learning more about Allred's wife, the fact that she did not change her last name. I said, hey, now wait a minute. We might be working with something here. And then I read her biography and heard her speak. And I said, okay, I can deal with this. I like a little progressive, feminist, highly accomplished woman. Keep your fingers crossed. I don't know. People really do not like Ted Cruz as a person, but he has been really effective in amassing power and keeping hold of power. Space filler count. That's the first one. The sentence fillers. I'm eliminating all sentence fillers from my vocabulary. So we're going to do one tally mark. It was a half of a space filler, but it was a little bit of one. As the people file in, as y'all file in decent and in order. Ooh, I haven't talked about the Beyonce and Kelly part of that. Beyonce looked great. How tall is Beyonce? I noticed when she was standing next to Kamala Harris. Is Beyonce a giant? Beyonce's presence anywhere is valued and appreciated. The superstitious part of me was like, oh crap, I said like two. Well, that actually doesn't count as a sentence filler. It doesn't count as a space filler because it was an analogy. Okay. The superficial part of me, the superstitious part of me felt a little concerned. I don't want to have any echoes at all of 2016, but Beyonce came out, gave her enthusiastic endorsement of Harris, not as a celebrity, but as a mother. Love that, appreciate that. Oh, this has nothing to do with politics. This is random Kimberly thought. Another thing that stood out to me about Beyonce and Kelly coming out was not just Kelly's big ass suit. I don't have a problem with the big suit. Y'all are hating. But they came out, their microphones were not working. There was a second of question mark, and Beyonce is thinking on her feet and instinctively says, "Oh, there's a microphone over here. Let's go over there." Stagecraft, professionals. We love a performer. I don't know what's going to happen, you guys. All right. I think that has been enough time stalling. Have you taken a look at the polls recently? Who knows? Today, we are here to talk about the bro vote. Hey, y'all, how are you doing? It's me, Kim, and I'm back for another video. We are going to talk about the bro vote. Let's begin with a little bit of a primer, an introduction.
And to be frank, I'm not concerned with Donald Trump's character flaws or what he's done in the past. What I'm concerned with is how good of a president is he? Because that is his job, and that is what's going to affect the people of this nation. Let's look at who was a better president during their terms, statistically.
That was Jake Paul. I am going to be honest with y'all. When I found that image for the thumbnail, I'm spending a lot of time making thumbnails recently. I'm kind of into it. I'm low key. I have a little bit of an eye. When I found that image of a white man that kind of looks like Logan Paul with Donald Trump, I truly do not know. I can't tell the difference between Jake Paul and Logan Paul. I did not know. In fact, I almost went through this whole thing with the wrong name in the outline because I just realized that there's two different Pauls. That was Jake Paul giving an 18-minute long enthusiastic endorsement of Donald Trump. He mentioned in that video he has 18 million followers across platforms, and he wanted to take some time from his beautiful Puerto Rican home to detail all the reasons why Donald Trump is the best option and why the young people, a large portion of whom are young men who follow him, should not be bamboozled into voting for the other side, the wrong side. Paul is all in on Donald Trump. When I first saw that video, I thought, I wonder if somebody sent him a text message, made a phone call. It felt orchestrated. It felt to me like he got some information and somebody said, "Hey, can you talk to your people really quickly? Because there's a problem." Now, that is completely speculation, completely. But certainly, from what we know about the audience of the Paul brothers and the Trump campaign's ongoing efforts to shore up the quote unquote bro vote, that felt not 100% organic. And why would Jake Paul, influencer slash boxer, get a call from somewhere to try to shore up the bro vote, because the Trump campaign has decided that because they are bleeding suburban white women, the white women are done with him. And it's not just the youngish ones, it's not just the Gen Zs, it's not just the millennials. Surprisingly, Donald Trump is bleeding a lot of baby boomer white women, the baby boomers who came of age when Roe versus Wade was decided and access to abortion became law of the land. Those educated white women are turning away from Donald Trump. In order to make up for that loss, he is trying to bring in the lowest propensity voters, which are young men between the ages of 18 and 29, not just the white ones, but the Black and Latino ones as well. I talked in the last live stream that young women voters have decidedly turned away from Trumpism and Donald Trump. We should expect 70% of young women between the ages of 18 and 29 to vote for Kamala Harris next week. But there has also been a modest increase in support for Donald Trump among young men 18 to 29. We should expect around 55% of young men to vote for Trump. That is an increase from 2020. Now, notice that I said, well, in the polling that we have so far, we see 55 to 60% of men between the ages of 18 and 29 supporting Trump. We actually don't know if they're going to vote for Trump. In the most recent reporting that I have seen from Politico and the New York Times, female voters are out. In the early voting numbers, female voters have already overperformed the amount that they came out from 2020. And even young female voters have overperformed their 2020 share of the electorate. But the young men, again, the least reliable, most disinterested voters, have not, from what we can see from the data, it's just a snapshot. We don't have everything right now. The young men have not turned out in the way that the Trump campaign needs. Again, it's all too early. It's too early to call, too soon to call. A lot of people are going to be same day voters. I'm going to be a same day voter. And the line better not be more than 15 minutes. Because your girl is not trying to wait in line. All right. Once again, when we are exploring the bro vote today, we are going to be relying on clips from an episode of the New York Times, the daily podcast called The Gender Election. I thought it was well produced, as most New York Times podcasts are. I did not love the framing. I particularly did not like how, at the end of the episode, the two hosts, Sabrina Tavernisi and reporter Claire Kane Miller, there was a lot of emphasis on getting the young women to empathize with the young men. Why? Why? I guess we'll get into why, but they did not ask it the other way. Didn't love that. Let's start with our first clip.
The very start, when these people were children. Tell me about that.
So you've probably heard this phrase, kindergarten is the new first grade. And basically what that means is that school has become much more academic, much earlier. Starting at 5, kids are expected to sit still for longer, to learn to read earlier, to do assignments. And this has really ended up benefiting girls more than boys because girls tend to mature earlier than boys. So they're more able to act like this in kindergarten, and that continues through school. And we really heard about this from the young women that we interviewed who were supporting Harris.
I mean, I've always really, really loved school, honestly. I've always loved learning. I've always been such a nerd.
School never really was an issue for me.
You know, when I was growing up, there was this sense of boys get called on more,
Totally.
boys are better than
Right.
math, girls need to stand up for
Right,
themselves.
right.
And that's really changed.
It was just kind of a given that I was going to go to college.
I never even thought about not going to college.
Girls are outpacing boys in school. It's true in high school and college. It's true as early as kindergarten. And their opportunities in life, the roles that they can play, really opened up from just a couple generations ago. Now they're told they can do anything.
Definitely, I grew up very empowered.
It was girl power.
That's interesting. I have been doing a lot of internal work around this conversation about the underachievement of boys and men. My instinct is to say, who gives a fuck? I'm going to be honest, that is. And God's still working on me. God's still working on me. My instincts, because I understand the history of this country and, of course, the history of patriarchy, is to say, okay, all right, let them figure it out. But then you realize there are so many unintended consequences of having such a large segment of the population socially withdrawn, economically withdrawn, romantically withdrawn. So I have taken a second look. I did read the Richard Reeves 2022 book of Boys and Men. What is the full? Of Boys and Men, Why the Modern Male is Struggling, Why It Matters, and What to Do About It. And I thought it was well put together, but there are things, solutions outlined in that book that I thought, no, no, no. But I'm slowly getting there. I had never thought about, before I heard this episode, I never heard the phrase kindergarten is the new first grade, but that makes perfect sense to me. I have been saying for years that I have been taken aback by how rigorous my niece's schooling is. They started going to full day school at 3. I went to half day kindergarten. Like, I was a half day kindergarten. I went in the morning, and then the daycare picked me up at 12, maybe 12:30, and then I was in a nap by 1. The fact that it is normal and expected for 3-year-olds to go to school all day blows my mind. When I was 3, I was either with one of my grandmas eating neck bones or at daycare playing with the magnet letters, playing with the block letters. I definitely think we should think about the unintended consequences of expecting children of any gender to perform like that at such a young age. Apparently, the ship has sailed, but I think that might not be the exact right thing for anybody, but that is the expectation now. And for young boys who Richard Reeves outlines in the book, their brains mature at a different rate than girls. They do not have the cognitive or non-cognitive skills at 3, 4, 5 on average to make it through a full school day of learning. And he advocates redshirting, meaning if you have a boy child, do not enroll them the first year they're eligible to enroll. Wait a year so that those skills can develop and that they can actually get something out of the teaching, the curriculum, the classroom study in kindergarten. I'm fine with that. My concern about other things Reeves advocates, which to my mind feel like a fundamental reorientation of schooling in the direction of boys that it seems to me could marginalize girls again, disadvantage girls in new and different ways. I know that this is going to have to be a process of trial and error and figuring things out and what works here and what doesn't work there. I can only get on board if you can assure me that whatever structural, institutional, educational reforms you're implementing are not going to create undue burdens for girls. So, the other thing about the kindergarten being the new first grade thing that comes out tacitly in that episode, but comes out more as you do more and more reading about why boys are falling behind, you see that the expectation of more rigor sooner is not just about gender, it's also about class. A lot of what we're dealing with is the intersection of gender and class that leaves these boys, especially the white boys, I'm going to say especially because this is a whole new world for them and their parents and their grandparents. White people are not used to being structurally disadvantaged in this way. I do think that's why they are responding so violently. The expectation of rigor sooner is going to place a lot more burden on socioeconomically disadvantaged families. When I think of all of the stuff that has gone into educating my nieces from 3 to now they're 11, almost 12, it's insane. Those 2 pre-K years were not publicly funded. Those 2 pre-K years for 2 kids were private school, parochial school. But the expectation is if you want to have children who are ready for a competitive advanced world, you can't wait until kindergarten to get them in structured education. Unfortunately, we live in a country that has not broadly decided to invest in pre-K, preschool, Head Start. So even if you do have the cognitive and non-cognitive skills, in some ways, you're starting from a deficit, which is nuts. It's really unfortunate. But again, I am on board, I will say. Though I do stick by the statement that misandry is not real, I have seen enough data, read enough to see things are really going poorly for all boys. The focus in this podcast episode is young men who did not graduate from college because, as they underscore early on in the episode, the movement of young men toward Trump is concentrated among young men without degrees. But when you dig into the data around the underachievement of boys, it's not just the low income boys who are struggling. In fact, if you look into some of that work from Chetty is an economist at Harvard, and he runs a whole center that's dedicated to doing research, producing scholarship around economic opportunity, economic mobility, economic inequality. And Chetty et al., I believe this is from 2018, they did a blockbuster paper. One of the big findings there was that boys born into the top 20% of family earning households are as likely to fall, almost as likely to fall down into the bottom 20% as they are to stay in the top 20%. That's insane. That's insane. Black boys, I should say. Black boys born in the top 20% of households by income are almost as likely to be poor as they are to stay in the highest bracket of income earners throughout their lives. What the fuck? Bro, this truly has made me think. While going through this over the past couple of weeks, went into such a spiral for all kinds of reasons. I don't know if I'm going to be a parent. I have no desire to be a parent today, right now. But I felt like, just in case I have an accidental midlife pregnancy, or just in case I wake up one day, or, I have a partner, so I guess we have to decide together. I wake up one day and decide that I want to be a parent and it's a boy. We gotta have some structures. We gotta have a curriculum. We have to have a plan. Nothing. If you're raising a boy, nothing can be left up to fate. I picked out a private school and everything. I picked out an all boys private school. I picked out a tutoring center. I told my partner, we're gonna have to be toxic Black excellence parents. No video games, no rapidy rap, okay? Like, we gotta do Kumon every day. Like, it's nuts. And this is a fascinating development, because most of us have gone throughout our lives hearing that boys are so much easier. Boys are so much easier. Girls, we hear it from rappers, we hear it in the culture. Girls are your punishment for being a hoe if you're a man. Oh, you treated these women horribly. Girls are a punishment. And it's like, but it's the boys. You saw the other day, Kim Kardashian just had to delete Saint West's little YouTube channel because he was acting up on the internet. It's the boys. All this time, y'all were being misogynistic and saying girls were a punishment, but the boys are fucking failing. Hey, think about that. Think about that. Let's move on.
Honestly, as dumb as it sounds, as long as I make enough money to support myself and my fiance, and God willing, us be able to, afford to have children, that's my goal.
What matters to me is one day I provide for a family.
It should be my job to provide for her and the family.
They wanted to be able to provide for a family.
I should be able to take care of her under one income and her not have to work, because I feel like she shouldn't have to. I feel like if she wants to be a stay-at-home mom, she totally can.
Many of these men had not yet started families. They were very young, but they had been raised believing that was their role in society.
I feel like in the certain state that we're in as a nation, I feel like that's almost impossible.
When it comes to the older generation, like, it's not the same. I don't think you could buy a house with 2 blueberries and a nickel anymore, you know?
It was a dream of mine to own a house, and I feel like now I can't.
And they felt that in this economy, they couldn't be providers.
I feel like you're not a man until you have to take care of other people. Being able to financially and emotionally support those around you makes you a man.
And that really seemed to strike at the core of their identity.
I've seen a lot in my little 22 years of life. I don't think a driver's license makes you a man. I don't think serving time in the military makes you a man. I don't think doing hard, rigorous work makes you a man. I think when you take responsibility for others, I think that's what makes you a man, to be honest.
Right. It's like what it means to be a man traditionally had been built around that. So what happens when you can't make the money and that goes away?
Yeah, and so much has changed in nearly half of households with children. Women are the primary breadwinner or are the only breadwinner. They're single mothers. That's a huge change from just a few decades ago. The script for men really changed. Maybe being the household provider is not their main thing anymore, but they haven't been given a new script. They didn't feel like there was, a new way that they could contribute to society being offered here.
So the expectations that these young men have are the same as previous generations, but the reality is different.
The first thing that came to mind when I heard that clip was, whose responsibility is it to create new expectations for men? It seems to me like it would be the men's responsibility to do that. So what's going on? I'm sorry. Okay, I'm trying to suppress my misinjury, but something's happening where the process of identity formation, the keeping up with the times, the evolution, the social interaction and engagement that would allow you to bob and weave and evolve and shapeshift, it's going wrong. I have questions about what are the conversations inside of the home? The reason why I'm asking about whose responsibility is it to help young men construct new identities and navigate these new paradigms, I am always worried that it's going to become women's work. And I responded so negatively to the end of this episode because at the end, when they're asking, do you understand them? They made it women's work. Yeah, women are empathetic. Women want to work with men. They do. Women see men as members of their communities, even if they're not our sons, brothers, fathers, cousins, whatever. But that kind of care and it's a burden, particularly when we are talking about these women who are working and have professions and have their own lives, and a couple of them said they have partners, and then you have to think about Misinterest Kim is coming out. Let's go to another clip.
Like all the teachers, you try and force college down your throat. Maybe college isn't for everyone.
And a lot of them told me that they hadn't really considered college, or there were just so many hurdles that it fell out of the picture for them, and that they were eager to sort of get out of school and get into some sort of work that allowed them to use their hands, to do something different. And this is really showing up in the data. Women are graduating from high school at higher rates than men, and they're going to college and finishing college at much higher rates too.
And I'm assuming those worse educational outcomes for men are also affecting their job prospects, right? Like that's the next stage in our life cycle.
That's absolutely true. So in this same time period, it's become much harder to earn a middle-class wage without a college degree. That's particularly true for men because the jobs that men without college degrees used to do that earned them enough to support a family were largely in manufacturing. And these are the jobs that since the 1980s have really disappeared from the United States in large numbers.
Right.
They have either been replaced by robots or they've been sent abroad.
Most of my entire dad's side of the family all has worked for one of the big three. And my dad's told me so many stories about, like, once you turn 18, you go down to Detroit in the factory and work till you get your pension.
And a lot of the men that I spoke to told me that their grandfathers had worked in factories their whole careers and stayed there and, supported a family, and that they no longer had an option like that.
It definitely seemed like it was a lot more straightforward back then, where now is less clear exactly what you want to do.
Those were our two clips of men from the podcast. The first was an exploration of the change in expectation around what a man is supposed to do, what makes a man a man. The second was about the young men rejecting college. Again, these are conversations with the young male Trump voters, young men between the ages of 18 and 29. Let's start with the college one. This is tricky for me. My instinct is to reject the idea that college is not for everyone. That is my instinct. Why is that my instinct? Because I'm Black. And the university system, the Western university system, was constructed for most of its history to keep Black people out. And the justification of that was college is not for everyone. Universities are not for everyone. Some people's brains are more elastic and dynamic than others. I might be open to reevaluating my complete rejection of that. Why? When you look into the data around degree attainment in the United States, you see that until 1980 something, more men than women graduated from college. Now, 2/3 of undergraduate degrees, or maybe it's total degrees, for every 2 degrees a woman gets, men get 1. So it's around 2/3 of degrees are awarded to women now. It appears to me that once we made education more accessible to women, once we made higher education the norm, we also found out that proportionally more women have the skills to make it through these programs of higher education. A question that I have, and maybe this is somewhere in the data, was before that crisscross where more women began to earn degrees than men, was that number for men being held up by the fact that the number of men who actually pursued higher education was rather small? Before the early 80s, the men who obtained degrees were a self-selecting group because there was not a broad expectation that everybody goes to college. And when we moved to the norm that everybody goes to college and everybody should be put on the same track, the people who before would have fallen off with no negative consequence to their lives. As one of the men in the podcast said, his father and his grandfather worked for one of the big three, that's one of the automotive manufacturers, and they would have been able to live a great life and been able to say fuck school. But now all of those people who would have naturally been able to fall off and live great lives don't have that. And now are we now trying to force more young men to do stuff that their brains don't want to do? And I feel hesitant about that. I still am iffy on that. I have to do more reading because it feels a little ick to me. But that really might be it. It feels ick to me. And one of the reasons why it feels ick to me, because I'm have been surrounded by men and women who pursued higher education my entire life. But I also have to acknowledge there are things that my brain cannot naturally do. Maybe I could figure it out. Do I think that I could figure out how to change oil or do auto mechanic stuff? I have really high self-esteem, so I do think I could figure it out. I mean, that's like the benefit of being raised by a woman in a traditionally male industry, because I think girls can do anything. But I think women can do anything. So I do think I could figure out how to be an auto mechanic, but it doesn't come naturally to me. That would not be my first choice. Girls can do anything. Don't make me tell the story again about how my mom grew up saying that she wanted to be a TV repair woman, and then it was the age where it was affirmative action time, so there was intentional effort to recruit Black people to go to universities, and then she had a teacher that said, "Oh, you are not going to be a TV repair woman. You're going to go to college and be an engineer." Anyways, that's the whole thing. I shout out my mom. My mom is watching now, so I can't say F Ted Cruz. All right. Or she will watch this at some point, so I can't say F Ted Cruz. That is the question about maybe some young men and boys are rejecting college because they don't want to pursue it. And maybe some of them are rejecting it because they can't. Is that problematic to say? There is number 3. I've been doing so good. Number 3. There's a conundrum here. In another part of the episode, a young man who talked about spending a little bit of time trying to be a nurse or a caregiver or something like that. I want to say a nurse. And he tried it out and he didn't last long. And he explained that he didn't last long in nursing because he didn't like talking to people. And he prefers working with his hands. Okay, well, in the modern economy and in an evolving economy, when automation is knocking on the door, you're gonna have to figure out how to maybe not enjoy talking to people, but enjoy it enough to stick with the job. I mean, and make it right. But the thing about those soft skills, those non-cognitive skills, is They are developed in childhood. If you don't figure out the how to talk to people skills and the emotional regulation, there are so many emotionally dysregulated adults in the world. We can be intentional about helping young men and boys develop those skills and flourish in them. But what are we going to do about the adults who never learn that? That is the question. Because they like Donald Trump from all of the reporting, everything we know about why working class men, non college educated men love Donald Trump. They like that Donald Trump says, I'm going to fight for your job. I'm going to bring your job back. You deserve to be able to feed your family. You deserve to be able to make enough money for your wife to not have to work. But a lot of those jobs ain't coming back. Now, Obama fucked up by saying retrain, learn how to code or whatever. That wasn't the right thing. We got to have an Obama conversation. I went back recently, and I'm sorry if y'all don't like the asides. The whole point of doing these live streams is the free flowing, unstructured format gives me an opportunity to riff. I have ADHD. I'm neurodivergent. Don't be ableist, okay? The other day, me and my partner I decided to watch some old Obama clips, and he was there. I watched Obama clips from a town hall that he did in Ohio, maybe in 2016. And some of those Obama answers to the outsourcing and offshoring of manufacturing jobs were so bad. I said, how did we not see this? It's all kinds of reason why Donald Trump won. It is racism. It's sexism. It's Hillary Clinton was a bad candidate. It's Hillary Clinton didn't go to Wisconsin. It's all of this stuff. But my 2024 ears going back and listening to Obama give a very dissatisfying, unsatisfying is the word, answer to a man saying, I lost my job. It was black man too. I lost my job. It was a great job. I want to be able to provide for my family. What's going to happen next? And the way Obama answered, I just said, oh, this is horrible. He didn't comfort that man. He didn't give him a pathway for the future. The economic upheaval and restructuring and reshuffling, we're not going to go back. It feels good for them, from what they tell us, that Trump says, I'm fighting for your job. I'm going to bring your job back. We're going to have a booming car manufacturing, and we're going to make chips and all of that kind of stuff. But that's not real. That's fake. What are we actually going to do for these people? Don't get me started on TPP. I really wasn't paying attention. I don't even know what I was doing during the Obama presidency, girl. It was a tough time. I wasn't deeply tuned into the economic stuff, but the Obama economic policy was No wonder Biden has gone so hard in going the other direction. Makes perfect sense to me. Because that was not it. Well, Dodd-Frank was good and transitioning us out of the Great Recession was good, but toward the second term stuff, I'm a fake economics girl, right? Ooh, let me not call out any names because I feel like I might be 1 degree of separation from these people. Um, let's move on. So, yeah, there's a skills mismatch, and it's nice and kind of heartwarming to hear the young man who said he didn't want to be a nurse because he doesn't like to talk to people also say being a man is who you can provide for, who you can take care of. His dream is to make enough money so that his fiance doesn't have to work, but that's not the world we live in. And that's the other thing about the reimagining of roles. The role that these young men have in their head is traditional old school patriarch. That's you need to find a partner. You're not going to be able to be a patriarch. You need a partner. You need to go 50-50. You need to split the mortgage. Sorry, I mean, but do they want a partner? No. I don't want to put too much on it. I don't know. Maybe when you lay out the finances and the economics, maybe if you do the math for them, they will be comfortable with the idea that it's not going to be single income. But that's the thing. And here's the other thing that I have been a bit confused by. Over and over again, when there's conversations about the young men who are turning toward Trump, an idea is reiterated that these young men, I've seen Scott Galloway say it, it's also in the write up about the gender gap from the Survey of American Life, it's in the New York Times when they discuss the gender gap. They say that these young men are not quote unquote conservative, that they have quote unquote liberal attitudes towards LGBTQ and gender. And I don't think that that's right. I don't think that that's right. I don't think we're a 2024 liberal attitude or progressive attitude towards gender is not just do women belong in the home? Yes or no? Is women's rightful place in the kitchen? Yes or no? That doesn't capture it, actually. In order to actually gauge a real progressive attitude about gender, you have to ask, how do you feel about working with a woman inside of your home, but also in the world? How do you feel about that? How do you feel about women leaders? I don't think that I when I keep seeing people say, well, they don't actually have conservative ideas about gender, I do not agree with that. No. Moreover, there's also data and polling around people who vote for Trump are people who are most likely to say that the efforts to improve the station of women, the efforts to improve outcomes for women have gone too far. That's not a progressive attitude. In the New York Times write up, Nate Cohn outlines that one of the biggest predictors of whether or not a young man would vote for Trump is how that young man feels about Joe Rogan. I don't want to say, ooh, where does Joe Rogan fall on the political spectrum? I wouldn't exactly say conservative, but I wouldn't say progressive. These are still, these young men might not explicitly say girls are dumb or women are stupid, but I guess that they would say that too many women occupy places of power and positions of authority that they did not earn. I bet they would say that. That contemporary America is unfair to them because the most powerful institutions put their thumb on the scale for women and give women outsized power. That is a conservative ideology. This is a tangent, but I feel the need to, I'm going through these write-ups and saying, I don't think it is appropriate to call these people not conservative. Not around gender, not around women, not around trans people, not around gay people. I don't think it's appropriate to call them not conservative. I don't know, maybe I'll need a new term for it, but I think even if you say, when I was a kid, a conservative anti-gay position is gay people are wrong, they're going to burn in hell, whatever. A conservative position towards gay people in 2024 is, I don't want to see it. Why do they have to be everywhere? Why does there have to be a pride flag at the White House? Like, that's a concern. I just don't, I don't think we're not getting to the nitty gritty of it. These young men are starved for a feeling of import. They want to feel powerful at the very least in the home. Maybe not in the workplace, but in the home. And when you're searching for, they want to be pretend patriarchs. It's difficult to square any kind of progressive attitude with that. Just as my other thoughts around the rejection of college, speaking of the gender stuff, I wondered if at least a part of the rejection of college is about misogyny. I wonder if in their minds, K through 12 is coded as feminine and higher education is coded as feminine. And a part of rejecting that is about a desire to align themselves with things that they deem masculine. And maybe it's not always overt and malicious misogyny, maybe it's unconscious bias. I think it is important to have more men in the classroom and more male administrators, and more men are primarily principals still, right? On the other hand, I understand the argument about young men and boys doing poorly because they need more models. They need more representational figures in schools. And again, this is just me spitballing. I'm just going through, I haven't read everything. But I also thought, well, until very recently, higher education was dominated by men. All of the professors were men, administrators, men, college presidents, men. But women still made it work because they viewed those spaces as aspirational spaces. This is just a hypothesis. I don't have anything to nail it down to, but it seems very possible and plausible to me that a part of the rejection of education, it could be they can't do the work, they just don't have the skills. Could be they don't want to do the work, just doesn't interest them. It could be they don't want to do to be in the educational space because they view it as a feminized space and they hold disdain for femininity. All of those things seem very plausible to me. The other thing here, now that you mention it, I do think education has kind of been coded as more effeminate behavior, low key. It's been coded as feminine because women are doing it. That's why it's been coded as feminine. That's very modern. For It's very modern. I say this all the time, but in the oldest universities in the United States of America, women did not even get diplomas from them until 35 years ago, 40 years ago. That's why all of those schools have sister schools. Higher education, the university was a male space. You were a Harvard man. You I'm the I was going to say theme song. It's not the theme song. The fight song of Harvard is called 10,000 Men of Harvard. It's for men. It's now that the girls are doing it. Now that young women do liberal arts is gay. Now that young women do liberal arts, which was originally created to provide a curriculum for the men who are going to lead society. Now that women do liberal arts is useless because it's girly and feminine. That's misogyny. That's it. That's it. And that's why it's hard for me. It's hard. This subject is hard for me because it's hard to get over the misogyny. Anyways, yeah. The other thing is thriving on I don't want to go off into that too much, but about the misogyny of these attitudes, because I don't want to project things onto these people that are not there, but it kind of is there. The other thing about how they define manhood and masculinity and how they are going to evolve those roles, and if they can evolve those roles, a part of me feels deeply empathetic. These young men here and elsewhere are searching for, they want to feel valuable, they want to feel useful. I watched a very long conversation last night between Richard Reeves, the philosopher, writer, scholar that I mentioned earlier, and Chris Williamson. Oh boy, I have some thoughts about Chris Williamson. But I like Richard Reeves, so I watched the conversation that they had, and the thing Reeves underscores again and again is young men feel lost. They are searching for purpose, they need guidance, they want to feel valuable and worthy. They want to feel needed. And if you can't fulfill the economic role for a lot of men, that's but it's not just that they can't fill the economic role, it also comes back to social connectedness. I feel valuable because I love my job, but also there's lots of times when, it's not going so great over here, but I have a partner and I'm the best aunt in the world. And I have a good personality. Like, I have friends and like people. Ooh, crap. Two more. I've been doing so good with the not space fillers. I have a good personality. I'm fun to hang out with. There are many ways that I can find meaning in my life. If you don't have that, you don't have a job, you don't have an education, you don't have skills that people find valuable, our communal bonds are fraying, and they're particularly fraying for low income people. This is more work from the Survey of American Life. Now, about the Survey of American Life, the survey for the Center of American Life, I think that that's what the organization is called. They do good work and they have good write-ups and they have good data, but they are also connected to the American Enterprise Institute. And I'm like, should I ignore this data because they are connected to the American Enterprise Institute? But it's good and it's rigorous, and people that I trust and respect cite them. Sorry, I digress. The survey for the Center of American Life did a big, great write up about social bonds, communal bonds, connectedness, and the most connected people, some people call it social capital, are the people who make the most money. It's almost like you go to college or you get a well-paying job, you accrue all of this social capital. Maybe you're in a fraternity or sorority, maybe you're in an alumni organization. People want to be near you, and that's what imbues your life with meaning. But the people who need that the most are the people who are at the bottom of the income scale and they have the least access to it. Because it's not just about the organizations that you have access to or going to college, people don't go to church anymore. You gotta get back in those pews. No, just kidding. But also, there are fewer public spaces. There are fewer opportunities for people to randomly meet and interact that are low cost or free. Now I'm back to being touchy, feely, empathetic Pisces because when you really look at things, if you can get over the misogyny hurdle, jump over the sexism hurdle, you see what a sad, lonely experience so many of these men are having, and why that would inspire them to turn to MAGA for community. Because that's the other thing we see with the MAGA stuff. Those people feel like they're in a sisterhood, a brotherhood. They feel like they're in the fucking trenches together. They love that shit. David French in the New York Times did an op-ed about what liberals or what Harris voters don't understand about Trump and Trumpism. And I mean, we do understand this, David, but it's fine. David used to be or is a hardcore conservative. He's an anti-Trump conservative. But his thesis was we don't understand how much fun they're having. Those rallies are a great time. They love the nicknames. They love making fun of disabled people. They love making fun of trans people together. It's a real unifying experience for a group of people who don't have access to that. That doesn't mean that I'm excusing the Trump shit. But if you can, with a clear head, think about how atomized and individualized our culture has become. People aren't in unions. People aren't in bowling leagues. Speaking of bowling leagues, you know, one of my favorite books is Bowling Alone by Robert Putnam about this. People don't go to church. They're not doing good in school, so they're not really finding community in school. There's the other thing, boys don't do sports anymore. Boys do sports, but there is a noted decline in male participation in sports. And now I'm a volleyball aunt. My nieces are volleyball girls. And I'm just there. I'm like, oh my God, we're all here to watch little kids play. Because girl sports has exploded. What are they doing? They're doing the Trump shit. The thing is, they're deeply desirous of not just any kind of community. These men are also deeply desirous of romantic relationship. Unfortunately, the young women that they desire to be in relationship with are disgusted by that. They are disgusted. As I outlined in our last video together, young women don't want to be anywhere near that Trump shit. They don't want to be your friend. They don't want to go on dates with Trump voters. I don't want to go on dates with Trump voters. I wouldn't. Baby, this is from a group text, but somebody texted me the question, would you rather, ooh, no, it's classist. Wait a second. Let me edit it. Would you rather date a man who made a quarter of your salary or a man who voted for Trump? It's the low earning man. It's the low earning man. I don't want to date a Trump voter under no circumstances. Because that Trump shit is not just about ideology, it's also about what you think your place in the world is. There's a reason why college educated men overwhelmingly are voting for Harris, because they don't feel that status threat in the same way. And if you listen to that episode, that podcast, there's a little bit of a segment around dating, and either Sabrina or Claire says to the men, "Are y'all dating? Do you desire to date?" A couple of them have girlfriends. Well, I don't know if a couple, one of them at least had a girlfriend. And one of the men just comes out and says, "Yeah, I want to date. I'm very lonely." Oh my God. But bro, the the women you want are disgusted by that. And we see young men in their desire to form bonds, build social connections, create community. Not only are they doing the Trump shit, which is disgusting to the women in their age group, they're also turning to religion. Oh, this is really interesting to me. This is a New York Times. Ooh, I'm sorry. I'm a New York Times girl. I'm sorry. At least it's not the Washington Post, though. At least I didn't spend all night referencing the Washington Post. This is a write-up from the Times about how, for the first time since data has been collected, more young men are attending church regularly than young women. Because increasingly, young women are leaving the church. And if you read the story, the searching for purpose, searching for guidance, searching for connection theme comes up over and over again. We can read this. Young men have different concerns. They are less educated than their female peers. In major cities, including New York and Washington, they earn less. At the same time, they place a higher value on traditional family life. Childless young men are likelier than childless young women to say they want to become parents someday, by a margin of 12 percentage points, according to a survey last year by Pew. The young men at Grace and Hope churches are looking for leadership. They're looking for clarity. They're looking for meaning, said Bracken Arnhart, a Hope Church pastor. The thing is, the girls they're not fucking with that. The other interesting thing about young men's move toward organized religion is they're not just moving toward church, evangelical Christianity, Catholicism, Islam. They're moving toward the more conservative sects of those religion. Sects. There's lots of reporting all over the place about the rise of very traditional Catholicism among young men, Gen Z men, and millennial men. Because there's a such thing as a liberal Catholic priest. Well, back in the day, at least. And people think that the current Pope, Pope Francis, is liberal. That's why they don't like him. But there's a desire for not just community, but order and domination. And what does all of this say about the future of young men and young women in relationship to each other? There's some hurdles. Girl, if you're heterosexual and you're interested in partnership, you better find your man. Get on the apps and find somebody quick, cause the future. That's if you're looking, because most of the girls aren't even looking. There are real obstacles, real impediments to young men and young women not just getting together romantically, but getting together socially. They're on completely different parts of the internet. They're consuming different things. A thought that I had the other day was, is there still unified youth culture? When I was a girl, it's not that there was one culture, but maybe there was two youth cultures. But now it's so disparate. It's so spread out. They call them filter bubbles. There's a great book by Kyle Chayka called Filter World about how our lives are now so mediated by algorithms that everything that we encounter, every idea, every song, every aesthetic we're steered that direction and away from other things. Your ability to discover, to create, to construct is constrained because we're all steered. And to my mind, that's particularly dangerous for young people because you never develop the skills of discovery. You never developed the knowledge set, the skill set of how to find things. You know, the internet used to be open. Like you just go on a website and like start clicking links. Like I am an OG internet kid. Like I was in the computer room on the internet in 98. Were you there? Were you there in 1998? Were you there? You weren't. That's not a thing. It's not a thing. At any rate, all of this goes back to what are the new scripts for modern masculinity? Are they appealing to the Trumpers? The other thing, to go back to something I said in the last video, is we care about this as people and as old people because your politics are hardened in post-adolescence. They really become a part of your identity in post-adolescence. Some people change, some people transform, but most people don't. This is it. As the young men are deciding between the Theo bros and the Barstool bros, which direction are they going to go? And what does that portend? Where's that taking us societally? Not a great place. Trump is going to be gone after this election, but I'm not convinced Trumpism is going to be gone. For a minute, I thought if Harris wins on Tuesday, Donald Trump is gone as a national political candidate. He's 78 years old. He's eating McDonald's multiple times a week. So, and we could maybe turn the page. I'm no longer convinced that we're going to turn the page, even if Trump does not win. I, I don't think that that's what's going to happen. And that is scary. We'll take a look at some comments and wrap it up. The shade. What shade? Not to sound like a doomer, but the future is looking scary. I do not. Okay. How do I feel about the future? One of the reasons why I have chosen to suck it up and support Harris is because I recognize that Trump, if he makes it 4 years, or Trump and Vance, if they have to split the term, have the capacity to do so much damage to any of the guardrails, the institutional guardrails, but also the judiciary that interprets laws that impact people's ability to access life-saving healthcare, not just abortion, but other medical care, impacts their ability to work, navigate their careers, navigate their jobs, impacts their abilities to access education. I mean, all of that stuff, they have the ability to fundamentally alter in negative ways for marginalized people. That's why I am sucking it up and voting for Harris. That's why I encourage people to suck it up, because as bad as you think it is now, it can get worse. So I am worried about a future where all of that stuff is shifted in a way that the default is to explicitly harm racial minorities, gender minorities, people with different sexualities, workers, low income. And it's not even low income, because it's working class people get the most shit. But the way that a Trump administration would install judges and replace the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, or just completely dismantle the National Labor Relations Board that strip all workers, if you work for a private institution, strip you of rights to organize, strip you of the ability to blow the whistle, strip you of discrimination protections, anybody, no matter where you fall on the income scale. That to me is scary. It's scary also because I think that there are enough people in the country that are opposed to Trumpism. I've heard Ron Brownstein, who's one of my new favorite political analysts, he came up with the term the blue wall. He referenced somebody who did the numbers, did the computing, did the calculating, and they came up with the idea that 90 million people over the years have come out to oppose Trump, and 80 something million people have come out to vote for Trump. So there are more anti-Trump voters in the United States, anti-Trumpism voters in the United States than pro. The concern is the destruction of these institutions, the erosion of the guardrails to a place where those of us who oppose Trump aren't going to be able to express that because the institutions are so badly damaged. Our ability to fight back, our ability to resist, #resist, our ability to even sustain ourselves is going to be so badly damaged intentionally by a Trump-Vance administration. People are just going to be really beaten down. And actually, let me not go there. Let me not say that. A lot of American leftists are not prepared for when things get worse, to be honest. I think, I've been trying not to go too hard on the hardcore lefties because I get it. I'm sympathetic. I just think I really have been trying to put myself in the mindset, in the shoes of people who think that we should just let the worst come. I'm trying to be as open to it as possible. I don't want to be reactionary. I don't want anybody to mistake me for somebody who thinks that these institutions, the presidency is going to save us, the courts are going to save us. No, I know. But for some reason in my mind, the terror is so clear. The terror of Trump-Vance is just way clearer to me than whatever good that could possibly come from refusing to vote for Harris. And maybe that's my lack of imagination. Maybe my political imagination, my radical imagination has been blunted or corrupted or diminished to a point where I can't see what y'all are seeing, what the Stein voters are seeing, or what the Cornel West voters are seeing, but I see terror. I see destruction. But maybe I'm just being alarmist. I don't think I am. I don't think I am. I genuinely think that the fact that we're forced to constantly choose between the lesser of two evils is why we have such shitty options. I don't argue with people about it because I can't be bothered. Yeah. I mean, on another day after November 5th, I do intend to go right the fuck off on the Democratic Party. Please do not get me fucked up. I have in my heart a burning desire to go right the fuck off on the Democratic Party. Like, I'm not joking. Crap, I said like again. I am not joking. I have been ruminating on it. I have notes. I have clips. I am so pissed off. When people say that they are resentful or angry about the electoral position that we are in, I get it. I do. I get it. I feel ya. I get it. I haven't even been able to contain my anger. Why am I in a party that is aligned with Dick Cheney? What is going on? We will return to that at a later date, but it is crazy. It's crazy. Okay, just a little. I just have to get this out. Okay. Now that we're here, I'm not going to do too much. Joe Biden, over the last week or so, has had a couple of stumbles, a couple of foibles. There was the garbage comment, there was the lock him up comment. He's gone out of his way to say everywhere that he is, Harris has been right next to him. When certainly Biden and people around him know that one of her tasks is to put as much space between her and the Biden administration as possible. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if we were sitting here today and Joseph Robinette Biden was the nominee? Now maybe we would be having different conversations about Pennsylvania. Maybe. But I think she's doing pretty well in Pennsylvania. But that was what the institutional Democratic Party told us was the right way. I'm going to hold it in. I'm going to hold it in for a few more days. I'm going to hold it in for a few more days. There was one article I read. The U.S. doesn't have a system to disband the U.S. States can't secede legally. And honestly, I love it if we could just get a new constitution. States cannot secede legally. That's what the Civil War was about. They can't secede. And a new constitution, you have to get ratification for two-thirds of states for ratification of a new constitutional amendment. Is it 2/3 or 3/4? Whatever it is, we're not getting that. There's no new constitution, no new constitutional amendment. No new constitutional convention. We can't even pass the Equal Rights Amendment. I have no problem with people voting. I have no problem if you live in a blue state voting third party. I have a little bit of a problem with Jill Stein. I do. I do have a little bit of a problem with Jill Stein, but I don't think all third parties are bad at all. At all. I understand why people are voting for Jill Stein. I do. So this is not an indictment of the Stein voters. I have a problem with Stein though. Um Crap. I've been doing really good with my space fillers. I think that for the future, third party organizing is real and possible. I have an ex. I don't know if he still works there, but he did work for the Working Families Party. They win elections. They organize and they win and they get people on the ballot. Any third party movement is going to have to be local first, and then you grow and you build up. I think it is great that Jill Stein opposes genocide. I think it is great that West opposes genocide. Those are important. If that is what you are voting on, I understand. But Jill Stein, I heard Jill Stein say something about her relationship to the reparations movement and like how early I'm like, I don't think that you were the one who, maybe my history is wrong. I don't think it was, but hey. What do you think of the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact? I only kind of know what that is. I can look it up on Perplexity. I think I know what that is, but I don't want to guess. National Ooh, not my Perplexity taking a long time. Not Perplexity failed me live on the internet, girl. Agreement among a group of U.S. states to award all their electoral votes to whoever wins the overall popular vote. Oh, I like that. I like the idea of it. I like the idea of it. You know, maybe this was fake. I like the idea of it, but here's my only thing about this. Progressive people, just because of the way that this two-party system is going, progressive people should not assume, progressive-ish, leftist-ish, left-ish. Like, oh, and by the way, there was a comment on the last video that said, liberal is not leftist. No, liberal is not leftist. But when I say left, people are generally, they mean left of center. So in a conversation about young women moving left, they mean young women are moving left of center. That doesn't mean that they're leftists, just to clarify. I said all that to say that current Democratic voters should not assume that the demographics of the United States are always going to lend themselves to Democrats winning. We're in a little bit of a weird realignment thing, particularly with the working class men of different races teaming up to scapegoat the migrants. If that persists, particularly if we see a further erosion of the social, economic, romantic prospects for working class people, and the Republicans can never recapture the party. If MAGA is the Republican Party nationally, I think there's real concern about more people going that way, especially if the Democrat candidate is not strong. We're in a really uniquely fucked up position in the US because Harris does have higher favorable than Trump, but she's not exceptionally well liked. We can't get into another situation like this. It just can't be where a lot of people deeply dislike both candidates. Because the expectation that Democrats, despite having the best policies, people like Democratic policies. People want abortions. People want investments in their communities. They want a strong domestic manufacturing. They want healthcare. They want Obamacare, which is very interesting. I know Obama wakes up every day and freaking high fives himself in the mirror. The way that things have turned on Obamacare, do you remember the Obamacare fallout? That created the Tea Party. People were so mad about that. People lost their shit. And now people would riot if Obamacare were overturned. Okay? Like, shout out to Nancy Pelosi. I kind of turned on Pelosi in the last couple of months. My feelings about Pelosi have changed. My feelings about we'll end it here. My feelings about Pelosi have changed, and I'll get into this. I'm gonna keep it cute today. My feelings about Nancy Pelosi have changed because she was the only institutional, high ranking, well respected Democrat who was willing to get the job done. She was willing to put what she felt was in the best interest of the country before her personal allegiances and that weird, stupid, insular shit. Maybe that's because she's 80 something years old and she's not Speaker of the House and her legacy is cemented. But something that has renewed my admiration and appreciation of Pelosi is she literally severed her relationship, hopefully just temporarily, with Biden to push him out. If you say that this is a life or death situation, if you say that we are fighting for the soul of democracy, if you say that this is a battle between fascism and democracy, and you're not willing to do what Pelosi did, because all the reporting says Joe Biden still does not fuck with Pelosi, and do it publicly and do it privately, I don't believe you. Nancy Pelosi is the queen of insider trading. Yeah, sure. I have mirrored her trades and made a lot of money. So shout out to that. But she's also the queen of crap. The bringing down don't ask, don't tell. And Obamacare, getting Obamacare passed. The most effective Speaker of the House in modern history. A little corruption. A little corruption. Hey, I can overlook a little corruption. If you're gonna get me what I need, I can overlook a little corruption. Don't clip that. If you're actually gonna do things that improve people's lives, hey. Do you believe, okay, how many? We'll do this for 8 more minutes. Do you believe it is legitimate fear that Trump and his allies will overturn the election if they do not have the votes? No, I don't think Donald Trump is going to overturn the election. I don't. Pelosi convinced Democrats to vote for Obamacare even though they knew they would lose their seats because of it. Yeah. Okay. Crap, now I can't remember the fucking name of the book. Power. It has the word power in it, her book. I have only read the first 2 chapters. But she's had an interesting life. Crap, power. Anyways, the Pelosi, her memoir. Crap. I can see the cover. She's in a white suit. Fuck. Anyways, if you listen to her talk about getting Obamacare passed or just, you know, these are just really big things in our lives. Oh, or I know that y'all won't like this because we're kind of progressives over here, but the bailout bill when the economy was on the brink of collapse. Just she had the votes. She had the votes. Okay, let me just hi, this is misinformation. This is misinformation. I agree that the individual mandate was a really critical part of Obamacare that would have, I believe, meaningfully lowered people's premiums, made it more affordable and more accessible. But Obamacare is one of the most consequential pieces of legislation that you will ever live to see. We definitely needed a public option for sure. But the idea of you don't get denied healthcare coverage because you have a pre-existing condition. Do y'all understand? People who had not cancer is like a big one. If you had cancer, if you have rheumatoid arthritis, if you have, I know people who have Crohn's disease, if you have diabetes, can't get on real health insurance. No cap to the limits that your health insurance plan can spend on paying for your care. That's illegal now. That's a big deal. Being able to, if you have a parent who has insurance, being able to stay on their plan until you're 26, that is a big deal. Moreover, as a self-employed person, without Obamacare, there's not really a way for me to get great health. There would not really be a way for me to get great health care. I had surgery this year. Honestly, that's low key why my year been fucked up. Low key, but I am grateful that I had good health access to good health insurance as a non-corporate employed person or non-public sector employed person via the marketplace. I don't think you guys understand. Maybe you're young. Maybe because I know people who have chronic illnesses. I know my father died of aggressive cancer when he was relatively young. Having access and look, it's not great enough, but there are subsidies. And we do need to take it further. We really do. But the reason why millions of people in this country would riot if Trump and the Republicans tried to overturn Obamacare is because it was a huge deal. It is a huge deal. If Trump is charged, how will he be president? The bailout bill. It would be cool if you could do a mini intro to economics video. I am becoming more informed, but John Oliver said we're good or something with our safe holds against him overturning the election. I believe that white man because I need to believe in something. I think, ooh, I'll save it. But I don't think that Donald Trump is going to overturn the election. I don't. I think for as many Republicans and institutional governmental actors who are way far up Donald Trump's ass, I think there are more institutional actors and politicos who believe in upholding and maintaining US institutions, and they would not go along with Trump attempting to do that. If I were going to be concerned about anything, I would be concerned about the violent, dysregulated, unhinged MAGA weirdos after Donald Trump loses, if he loses. I would not be worried about Trump and them not certifying the election or anything like that. I would be worried about local violence because I don't know about those people. I don't know. I don't think that all of those January 6th arrests were really a deterrent. The fact that Obamacare and Roe versus Wade can get overturned is what's terrifying. There's all kinds of other things that can, yeah. I mean, there's so many other things that can be overturned that uh are terrifying with regard to policing. I'm worried about court rulings on policing, of course, rulings on healthcare. I worry for the people who work. I do legitimately worry about court rulings striking down anti-discrimination, racial discrimination mandates and stuff like that. Stuff worries me. Court rulings against unions and collective bargaining and workplace organizing. That stuff concerns me. I mean, you got to worry about, I don't want to take it too far, but we'll end here. I worry about court rulings against medical abortion because that appears to be coming down the pike. I kind of worry about court rulings against access to contraception. I worry. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I am concerned about access to, clearly, because they've decided to make trans people the scapegoat. Protections for trans people. Well, there is I was just reading about the ruling that barred sex discrimination in employment. That's good. But barring trans people from access to healthcare, I worry about that. I worry about overturning Obergefell v. Hodges, making gay marriage, stripping gay people of the constitutional right to marry. I worry about that. There's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. I mean, and of course, if you're a Black person or a minority, you have to worry about the reversal of the civil rights protections against that were meant to provide professional and economic opportunity for Black people, that stuff is going to get overturned or overruled, ruled against, I should say. There's just a lot of stuff happening. Oh, no fault divorce. What is going on with the chat? IVF. I don't think I've okay, I keep saying let's end it. Why am I Oh, girl. I have a man. I got to go. Okay, sorry. I'm just on here. Time blindness really has gotten the best of me. I got to go. Okay, talk to you next time. Oh, girl, we could have been doing this the whole time. I forget. All your comments are done. Anyways, if I do this again and I forget to put up the chat screen, y'all need to tell me to put up the chat screen. I'll talk to y'all next time. Bye.